Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast with, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, here to preview Week 13 in the NFL, and I'm doing it solo. We were meant to have guests on today in Adam Martin from the Franchise Tag podcast, but sadly he is unwell. So it is just myself as I look ahead to Week 13 in the NFL. And before we carry on, this podcast is brought to you by Fantasy Game Day app. It's the only NFL fantasy football app created by UK fans for fans in the UK. Head to fantasygameday.app and download now on App Store and Play Store and use code Andy5 and you'll be credited with £7.50 after your first lineup is set. 18 plus and begambleaware.org. So, yeah, we are here to talk all things Week 13. It's one of my favourite weeks in the NFL. It is the Thanksgiving Bonanza, where we get games on at 5 p.m. on a Thursday, which is always something I love. Always a great addition. Basically, we're getting two lots of NFL Sundays. We get the Thursday lot of games, you get the 6 o'clock games, the 9 o'clock games, and the 1 o'clock games. Then you've got it all again on Sunday and then Monday night. So this is a great week for me. They normally have some sort of Thanksgiving-based food on the table on the Sky Sports coverage, which I always like, seeing likes of Jeff Reinbold or Neil Reynolds using the old carving knife to cut the turkey. Always love this time of year. And I've had the luxury of being in America once for Thanksgiving. I was actually in Detroit for a game there, Lions-Bills. Still, for me, the best game I've seen live at any NFL game, whether it's in the UK or US. It might be one of the best sports games I've been to just in general. But, yeah, that's something I look forward to. And, of course, I mentioned the Lions then. It is a tradition to always have Lions games on Thanksgiving in Detroit. And that is the first game of the day as the Lions host the Bears on Thursday night. Lions go into this game on 10-1 record, whereas the Bears go into this game with a 4-7 record. And I think, if I'm honest, even if you caught the Bears playing the Lions after their win streak they had and when they won in London, I still would have backed the Lions. I think the Lions, we said it before in our Week 12 review we had in our last episode, they are the best team in football right now, in my opinion, and I don't see any way a team this in form in the NFL, like the Lions, would lose to the Bears. I think, we all saw what happened with the Panthers and Chiefs last week. One of the worst teams in the NFL against one of the best teams record-wise this season. I think overall you can't really argue past the Lions winning this game. And I think this is why I'm giving the Lions the win. And before we get on to the rest of the games on Thanksgiving, of course, we didn't have a Week 12 preview. We had a Week 11 preview, and I had Freddie Harper-Davis on the show. The scores were that he had 8 and I had 10. So as it stands, I still lead the way on the leaderboard with my 14 perfect prediction day in Week 6, whereas I'm also the lowest on the leaderboard with my 6 from Week 3 in the NFL. Moving on to the second lot of games on Thanksgiving, and of course, the Lions have home games on Thanksgiving every year. So do Dallas, as the Cowboys host the Giants at AT&T Stadium. I think it's two teams that have really underwhelmed this season. I mean, the Cowboys have been way under par, and the Giants have been, as we expected, to be pretty bad. And I think that, what I saw, that Buccaneers game last week for the Giants was a real shoddy performance. And whether it's Drew Lock, whether it's Tommy DeVito, not sure what his status is at the moment. It looks like at the moment Drew Lock is the guy to start the game on Thursday. And I think Drew Lock has that potential. We saw it in Seattle. We had that one game where he came out of nowhere and performed really well and got them the win. But I think also the Cowboys showed for me they had something about them still in that win against the Commanders. Obviously, were helped by the Austin Seibert missed kicks. But I think either way, you've got Cooper Rush there, who hasn't been great, but I think he improved a lot in the win against Washington. And I think this Dallas defense, you've got Micah Parsons back now, and I think this will be a Cowboys win. I don't think it'll be maybe as much of a landslide as there has been in recent years. You think of I think it was 40-0 in Week 1 last season. I don't think it'll be quite that kind of storyline, but I think equally, I think Dallas have got more than enough in their tank to get the win, and I think that'll be a Dallas Cowboys victory. So the third lot of games involves my team, the Dolphins, as we take on the Packers in Green Bay. In all my years following the NFL, been a fan since 2009, been watching games properly since 2015, never seen the Dolphins play on Thanksgiving. So it's my first time experiencing that. Boy, it's a tough game. Boy, is it a tough game. Packers at Lambeau Field, any time of the year. it's tough. But have it in what looks like it's going to be snow and certainly cold conditions. That's a guarantee. Um, it requires the boys to be, the Dolphins players to be, test themselves at the highest level and the highest sort of conditions, because we all know the narrative. We've all seen it the last few years. The fact that this team can't play cold weather. You've seen us. Yeah, we actually ran the Bills close in the one cold game, but you saw us struggle against the Chiefs last year, against the Buffalo Bills in cold weather as well in other games. So big test for Tua. It's been great the last 3 weeks, particularly the last 2 weeks, but let's not be unrealistic. It has been against two poor teams in the Raiders and the Patriots. We're playing an actual good team, a team that I have picked throughout the whole season to win the NFC. In the Packers, I still think to this day, even with the Lions playing as well as they have done, I still think they could actually go on and win that NFC and beat the Lions in the NFC title game as a shock result. Now, I think we're in good form. I think Tua's looked back to his best. I think until we see them beat a good team, a really good team like the Packers, I'm not going to, sadly, put my money on my team. I mean, we beat the Rams, fair enough. That was a good team we beat. But they've been very inconsistent this year. Even when Tua was playing game against the Bills, it was pretty bad to watch, albeit that was a very long time ago. And I think the run game has been excellent. We talked about it in the Week 12 review, that the run game has been brilliant in recent weeks, and that's probably where we're going to go on Thursday. I mean, McDaniel seems to have learned from his lessons in terms of using the run game a lot more, and I do see him doing that more than the past games. I don't see Tua having that many yards, if I'm honest. I think there was a game years ago, I believe it was a Tom Brady return against the Patriots or Buccaneers. Obviously, Mac Jones had something like 6 passes in the game and they still won the game or just lost it. I think I can see it being maybe that kind of game where we do run the ball a whole lot more in the game than we would do passing it. And I think we'll see the likes of Devon A-Chain will be the man to look out for if you're wanting a bet on a player to score touchdowns or putting a player in your fantasy lineup. I think Devon A-Chain is the man for you, because I think he's going to, hopefully, fingers crossed, have a monster game, and he's going to be the main guy on offense for us. I think you can see the likes of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle do some jet sweep plays, maybe yards after catch, maybe a quick screen pass and do it that way. Excuse me. But I think either way, this Packers team is too good. I think you've got one of the best corners this year, one of the best defenders this year in Xavier McKinney, tied for the most interceptions in the NFL with 7. I think he's going to have a field day against Tua in this cold weather. And I think you got a receiving corps which has Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, and weapons including Josh Jacobs. Jordan Love is a brilliant quarterback. And they got a good backup in Malik Willis, who's been brilliant in Love's absence this year. I think this game, we're looking at the schedule, and I think there's winnable games against the Jets and the Browns. I think on our day, we can beat the Niners and Texans at the moment on current form. I think the Packers is the hardest one of the rest of the year, and I don't sadly see us winning this game. I think the Packers will get the win on this Thanksgiving John Madden special. I believe this one's going to be the John Madden one on NBC. I think we'll see Jordan Love and Jaden Reed and all the rest of the offensive weapons eating that turkey on TV. But moving on to Friday as well, as we see a Black Friday game, the second installment. We had it last year with Dolphins Jets. We got it this year with Raiders Chiefs. Of course, we saw this game also on Christmas Day last year, which was until the Bills game with the Chiefs the other week. The last time the Chiefs lost a regular season game. They're 10-1 at the moment. Raiders are 2-9. Now the Raiders, of course, we saw them beat the Chiefs last year, but that was really Mahomes on a bad day. I don't see any way the Chiefs will not win this game. I think they had their loss, but the Raiders could cause them a shock, but I just don't see them losing this game, if I'm honest. And, people like Baldy and the big fella, Baldy especially, will not be happy to hear that I'm saying the Raiders will lose, but I don't see he's expecting anything otherwise. So I think the Chiefs win this game, and I think the Raiders have been pretty poor, and I think the Raiders should be now, with Gardner Minshew out for the season, Aidan O'Connell there, I think they should be looking at that number 1 pick, or at least top 2 or 3 picks, because whether it's, Travis Hunter there, who obviously isn't a quarterback, but, you think about Shadir Sanders and Cam Ward, I think they're, guys that I think them and the Jags, not the Jags, but the Titans will be potentially looking at when it comes to the draft. And I think if I get the mock draft up on Tankathon, Saki, I think they are 3rd currently in the current mock sort of draft standings. So yeah, you've got the Jags number one. Yeah, most likely to take Travis Hunter, and you've got the Giants, and then the Raiders are third. So I think, yeah, they're probably looking at, I think the Giants are locked in to get a quarterback. I think they are, with Daniel Jones being released. They brought in, they've already got Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock granted, but they're not going to be guys to look at for your future franchise. And I think they spend far too long, going through the motions with a guy who hasn't, frankly, been doing the business for all but one of his years as a pro. So I think they're going to look for a new, fresh start, probably looking at Shadir Sanders or Cam Ward, and I think the Raiders will get the other one, whoever they don't take in that second spot. I think Raiders take with the third spot, and of course it could all change from here till the end of the year. The Raiders could be the number one seed, for we know. They could be the fourth seed, could be the seventh seed. You just don't know. But I don't think in any way that the Raiders win this game, and I think the Chiefs will win on this Black Friday occasion. Moving on to Sunday, it is a 6 p.m. slate, starting off with the Chargers traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Boy. Two teams that are having good seasons. Both teams having winning seasons. Chargers 7-4, Falcons are 6-5. I'm going for the Chargers. I've waxed lyrical about them a lot. They had obviously a down game against the Ravens, but they've been brilliant these last few weeks, and I'm fully aware that they have played bad teams, but they've got a top 10 defense in both rushing yards and passing yards allowed. They got a running back with top 10 in rushing yards and touchdowns, and they've been firing on all cylinders, and Herbert's looked brilliant. So I think the Falcons have been good, and I believe they are off a bye week, so I think that could go in their favour. But I think they've been far too inconsistent for my liking. I think the Chargers, with a well-coached team like they are, I think they'll get the win in Atlanta, and they will go and get back on winning terms. Speaking of getting back on winning terms, I think the Steelers will do this against the Bengals. They travel to Cincinnati in our next 6 p.m. game. Look, the Steelers, they lost to the Browns in horrible conditions, but it was a close game. They could have won that game easily any other week. And I think the Bengals, as good as their offense has been, Joe Burrow, for me, I said before, should be the MVP favourite, but they're 4-7. So he's not going to win that award. And I think the offense will give them problems. I think Chase Brown could cause them some problems. But I think ultimately Steelers are just too good on defense. I think when you've got a defense that as good as it is, with the likes of TJ Watt, for example, the main man, he can probably put a stop to this Bengals offense. And then the defense has been pretty poor in Cincinnati. And I see the likes of Russell Wilson connecting with George Pickens. I can actually Pickens having a great day. I can see the likes of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren tormenting his Bengals run D. I think the Bengals they need to improve a lot, and I think it starts with their O-line, starts with their defense. And I think in this game, the Steelers will get back to winning ways, and they'll move to 9-3 as they try and win the AFC North. Next game is the Houston Texans traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Texans 7-5, Jags 2-9, and I think the Texans will get back to winning ways. They've only won one in the last four. But the Jags have been really poor this season. Texans are struggling, and it's a weird division because we saw the last 2 years. We saw in 2022, we saw the Jags absolutely fumble that division. We saw the Titans fumble the division, which allowed the Jags to get in and win that division. Then the following year, we saw the Jags themselves fumble the division. It allowed the Texans to get in as division winners. And this year, we're getting close to that. There's still 2 wins clear of the Colts in the AFC South, but they're free falling right now. The O-line has been really poor. They've struggled to really protect CJ Stroud. He's made some poor throws in recent times. Injuries to receivers hasn't helped. But I see him getting back to winning ways in this game. I think the Jags are that bad. I think the Texans will capitalize on that. And I realize that the Titans they'd be the bad team and they beat the Texans. But I don't think there's enough in that Jags locker room and that Jags offense to really worry the Texans, in my opinion. And I think that ultimately, with Trevor Lawrence also injured and Mac Jones in the center, I think this will be a nice, comfortable, get-right game for the Texans. Next up is in Minnesota, as the Vikings host the Cardinals. I can imagine this probably is the Sky Sports game at 6. I've not checked that part yet. But when you've got 2 teams that are trying to get into the playoffs, I think, it could be Steelers Bengals because of the exciting offense. Could be Chargers Falcons. But I think Vikings Cardinals might be the game of the 6 p.m. slate, might be the best game of the options. Vikings, I've stated a lot, but they've actually looked really good in recent weeks on offense. They had a difficult few weeks. They struggled, really getting back to how they were before London. But I think we saw it in their win against the Bears. While it wasn't pretty, they got the win, the job done, and the win. And I think the offense is somewhat back to his best. And I think against his Cardinals team, it's going to be a hard game. I think the Cardinals are doing really well this year, better than I thought they would. But I think ultimately the Vikings get the win at home. The Brian Flores defense causing problems for Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, James Conner, and I see Sam Darnold. I think Jordan Addison actually more than Jefferson in this game. I see Jordan Addison having a great game. He was great last week, of course, in the win over the Bears. In total, he had touchdown from 8 receptions and 162 yards. I think this Vikings team is somewhat back to the best before the London week, and I think ultimately it'll be a tough game. I think the Cardinals is probably the one where I found hardest to predict, but I'm going to give the Vikings a win. Ultimately, I think this will be the case. Next up is a repeat of last year's Germany game in Frankfurt, or one of them at least, as the Colts take on the Patriots. This will really help the Dolphins out if the Colts do lose this game, but I see them beating the Patriots. The Patriots were really, really poor against the Dolphins last week. Now, I've been praising the Patriots, saying they've been making a lot of games close and they've been better than advertised. But I thought they were really unimpressive against the Dolphins. I think if it wasn't for the Dolphins maybe taking their foot off the gas, I think it would have been maybe could even have been a shutout in this game. And the Colts they lost against the Lions, but a lot of teams have this year lost to the Lions. I think they'll get back to winning ways this week. Richardson had a great performance against the Jets. No picks, 3 touchdowns. And I think the Colts will, I think this might be actually the easiest one to predict of the entire week. I can see the Colts easing the victory here against the Patriots. And they'll move to 6-7. And probably, judging by my record, they'll go level on wins and losses with the Dolphins. And they'll go ahead of them due to their tiebreaker from their win back in week 7. Speaking of the Jets, who the Colts beat last week, they take on the Seahawks, who lead a really crazy NFC West. I mean, they're on 6-5. The Cardinals on 6-5. The Niners also 5-6, same as the Rams. So just one win between first and fourth. It's a really interesting division. Now, everyone thought this division would be one of the best for the teams being good. Turns out it's one of the best this year for teams being one of the worst. I think, we've gone from a tight division, which what we thought would be 9 wins and 10 wins. Turns out we're seeing a tight division from 6 wins. And Seahawks, for me, such a weird team. They started off 3-0, then they lost 3 of the next 4 games. But now they're 6-5, winning the division. And I think they get the win here against the Jets. The Jets have been really poor this year. Aaron Rodgers, I think there's talk of him being benched for the rest of the year and then being traded away. And there's talk of the Vikings, but that's not happening with the Daniel Jones news. I don't think he would have anyway. With JJ McCarthy there, I don't think he would have gone there anyway. They've been really poor on every single aspect. The defense has been really poor since Salah left. I don't think it was that bad. If I'm honest, I think they should have kept him because I don't think that he warranted getting sacked without a plan in place. Maybe they got something planned for the rest of the year. So for the end of the year, I don't know. But for me, I don't know what the Jets are doing. It's been really poor. And I think the Seahawks get the win here. And I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to have a field day. And I think the defense especially will also have a great day against this struggling Jets offense. And our final game of the 6 p.m. slate sees the Washington Commanders host the Tennessee Titans. Both teams probably won or lost games that people didn't expect. I think we all thought the Commanders would beat the Cowboys, and we all thought the Titans would lose to the Texans. Turns out Titans won against the Texans, and the Commanders lost to the Cowboys. But I think this week we'll see both teams get back to what we expect. I think the Commanders will win this game. I don't see the Titans winning back-to-back games. I think the Commanders would have learned from that loss. And I know they've lost back-to-back games now against Pittsburgh and then Dallas. But I think this team should have won this game against Dallas if it wasn't for the kicking issues. So I think they showed enough there with Daniels especially and McLaurin. And I think there's no way I think this game is, one, I think they'll ease to win. I think Titans are who we are, who we think they are. Not a great team. I don't see them winning more than a few games left this year. So I think the Commanders win this game with somewhat ease. As we move on to the late slate, as the Bucks take on the Panthers in Carolina. Of course, the Panthers almost were so close to beating the Chiefs. Only a last gasp field goal ended up, being a difference. And the Buccaneers won a very easy game against the Giants. And I think I love to sit here and say Panthers win this game. I think Bryce Young looked so much more improved since he got benched and came back into the starting role. But I do think the Buccaneers win this game. I don't think it'll be an easy win. I think it's a lot easier than it would have been. It would have been a lot easier, I should say, maybe week 2 or week 3. But I think now the Panthers are starting to find their feet. Bryce Young's starting to improve. I think that will make it. I can see a real quarterback duel here. I can see Baker Mayfield and Bryce Young batting out. I can see this game being high scoring. I can see it generally being 35-31 or something like that. I generally could see both teams on offense really balling out. And I think Buccaneers will get the job done, but I think they will make it easy for themselves. And I think they'll get the win here over the Panthers. Moving on to the next lot of games at 9 o'clock, 9:05. Saints taking on Rams, of course, a repeat of the infamous NFC Championship game from all those years ago with the missed call on, I think it was Roby Coleman. I think the Rams, have been very inconsistent. So have the Saints. I think both teams have struggled for consistency. But I have more faith in Sean McVay than I do the Saints interim coach. I think the Rams are a good team. They're a good team. They've got great weapons. Brett Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, many others, and I forgot their names now. Let me get them up. So the likes of Marcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, and of course you've got Kieran Williams in the backfield as well. So I think against Saints team, which has had his moments, that Valdez-Scantling's been brilliant in the few games he's played, since he became a Saint. But I think the Rams win this. I do think the Rams win this. I just think personally the Rams are one of those teams where they're going to win one week, lose the next. Same with the Saints, but I just have more faith in the Rams than I do the Saints. So give me the Rams to win. This 9 p.m. slate is, I think, one of the best I've seen literally all season, maybe for a while, because we've struggled all year to find a lot of good games. But I think this year, this game week, you've got Eagles, Ravens, and you've got Niners, Bills. Although Niners, Bills, apologies, that is Sunday night football, so ignore me. Eagles Ravens is on the 9 p.m. slate rather than Niners Bills. This is the hell of a game. For me, this is the game that will probably clinch Offensive Player of the Year. I think you've got the two favourites for me, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. This game is going to be, if you like your running game, this game is going to be brilliant. I think we're going to see, you've got two robot quarterbacks in Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. We've got two of the three best running backs in the league, the two best this season, certainly, in Henry and Barkley. I think we're going to see a real run-heavy game. I think, if you've got Smith in your team, like I have in some leagues, don't start him because he's not going to get the ball, I don't think, that much. I think AJ Brown will get the ball, if anyone, for the Eagles. I think Zay Flowers will get his moments in the passing game, but I think we'll see, a really quick game. I think both teams would dominate the run game, and I think Henry and Barkley were going to have a great time. I mean, the Ravens have got the best running defense in the league, or they had done when I last checked. I get that for a second because things change all the time in the NFL. That's the beauty of it. So the Eagles have the best defense when it comes to yards per game. When it comes to running yards allowed per game, Ravens are second. The Eagles are still top 10. So I think even with, you've got Barkley, you've got a Derrick Henry, I think that with the Ravens defense that's got someone like Kyle Van Noy, who's been brilliant, I think, this year. And he's had 9 sacks, I believe, this year, which is, one of his career best seasons. And you look at the other end of the stick, you've got this Eagles team which is still delivering. Brandon Graham's still there. Jalen Carter's been brilliant, and the whole Eagles defense has been fantastic in recent weeks. So I think whilst the two stars of the show are arguably Barkley and Henry, I think actually in this game they're not going to have maybe the yardage that we all think they're going to have, or maybe the monster performances we saw just a week ago. So I think really interesting to see how both teams deal with it. I think we'll probably see with the Ravens having a better run game. I can see maybe run defense, I should say. I can see Henry having a better game out of 2, but I also see AJ Brown out dueling Zay Flowers in that sense. And I think defenses are both really good. And I think the Eagles have the edge on their defense. I'm going to give the Eagles the win, even in Baltimore. Two teams with very tough atmospheres in their home stadiums. But I think the Eagles get the win here in Baltimore. I just think the Eagles offense, Ravens offense are very similar, both very good. But I think the Eagles defense is a lot better than the Ravens defense. So give me the Eagles win. Even though I'm saying the Ravens, I still think now will win the Super Bowl come February. I think the Eagles win this game in what should be a very, very, very good game. But I think this now is the game of the week. Niners Bills, Sunday Night Football, of course. I said it before, the best music out of all the NFL intro musics. I can't wait to hear that after seeing one of these two teams win. No real horse in the race. I mean, I obviously everyone knows my feelings on the Bills, division rivals. So I probably want the Niners to win, but the Bills are nowhere near as as a team this season in the division certainly. So I think I want the Niners, but I do think the Bills are going to win this game. I think Josh Allen is probably is probably the MVP right now if we're going by votes and how they work it. I think the MVP probably should be someone like Barkley, someone like Penei Sewell. But I think Josh Allen as a quarterback, I think it's him and Lamar Jackson will probably win this award. And I think the Niners have been such a weird team this year. We saw it last time they made the Super Bowl, 2020 season with real injury hit. And I don't think it's been quite as injury hit this year. McCaffrey's come back now. And I think, we thought we'd see more wins with him there. But they lost to the Seahawks and they lost last time out as well. So I think for me, the Niners are really in a weird place right now. I mean, the loss they had to the Packers was expected because there was no Brock Purdy. Looking at the stats, I believe he is back. I think he's down as questionable. He was throwing on Monday. Shanahan, said on Monday that he did some light throwing, and there was no issues. This is reported by Nick Vagona of ESPN.com. I think Brandon Allen wasn't great really against the Packers. Wasn't awful, but I don't think he was anything special. So I think they'll want to get Purdy back fairly soon. And it's still, we're recording this podcast on a Wednesday. We've still got 4 days before this game happens. And I can see Purdy being fit. I think that will change things. But I think the Bills are just rolling right now, and I think the Bills will get the win in Buffalo as well. And I think they'll move to 10-2. Our final game is Monday Night Football in a B against B game as Browns take on the Broncos in Denver. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Denver. I really am. They're a team I slated a lot start of the year or before the season started. I said I could see them having a top 5 draft pick in the upcoming in the draft in 2025. I said I could see Sean Payton not lasting the season. I've been proved massively wrong. Bo Nix, I was sort of not low on, but I wasn't. I was fairly high on Bo Nix. I thought he'd do a good enough job, and they've just been excellent. One of the best defenses this season, and I really like what I've seen. And I think against this Browns team that has one of the worst run defenses in the league. They're in the top 10. Only the Saints, Jags, Colts, Rams, Commanders, Giants, Cowboys, and Panthers have a worse run defense than the Browns this season. I think that for a team in the Broncos that ran the ball a lot in the last few weeks, I think they'll fairly easily win this game. I think the Browns did well against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 12, but you look at the week before, they were humbled by the Saints 35-14, and then week before that they didn't play. So the week before that they got. It's been very basically what I'm trying to say. It's been very inconsistent for them. Winston's been good one week, bad the next, and I don't really see a way they do win this game. I think Myles Garrett, Jameis Winston, Nick Chubb, Jerry Jeudy has been excellent. I think he'll be eager for revenge against his Broncos team. I think he could have a game. I think he scored one of my favourite touchdowns against the Saints, one of the smoothest ones I've seen all year. And I think we all as fans in the NFL want Winston to win games because he's just a personality you want to get behind. But I don't see it happening in this game. I don't see a way that the Broncos, in their form they're in, with Bo Nix, arguably the best quarterback so far in the NFL out of his rookie class. And I think we should be treated to a really good game. And I think the Broncos will win this game. And I can see it being something like 29, 30 points to 20 or something like that. I think the Browns will put up a fight, but I think ultimately we'll see Winston Going back to his old self, I think we're seeing him 1 week he's good, 1 week he's not. I don't think this defense has got enough to stop this Broncos run game and also the passing options as well with like the Courtland Sutton. Bo Nix even came in for a passing receiving touchdown the other week. So this Broncos team is firing, and I can see him rolling here. I obviously want them to lose. They're a team that we have to keep a close eye on. I'll be cheering on the Browns massively, especially if we beat the Packers, which I don't see happening. But if we were to beat the Packers, it would add extra emphasis on this Broncos game. And they're a team that's going to ultimately, I think, decide whether we make the playoffs or not through their own obviously, and also our own record, our own games. I think Broncos games will be the one we'll be keeping the closest eyes on this season to see for remaining 5-6 weeks. But yeah, that is where we will end the podcast for today in what's been probably a shorter than normal episode due to the fact that it's just myself. I hope you all enjoyed myself, my dulcet tones. And yeah, what should be a cracking NFL game week. And of course, if you didn't also hear from the start of the episode, we have included a live version of our theme tune. Of course, I did go out and see the Zangwills, who do sing our theme tune song, Sunlight at Midnight. Family friend of mine plays in the band. Got to see him, got to see the band, got to meet the band as well up close. Got to talk to them, played pool with them and things like that. Yeah, really nice to meet the band. And yeah, it was good to see them live. The Zangwills, of course, if you haven't been made aware, they are the band who sings the theme tune you'll be hearing in about 30 seconds time. And yeah, do check them out on Spotify if you haven't already. They got some really good songs. If you like indie, if you like rock, you'll like the Zangwills. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast with, as ever, your host Andy Davis, our Week 13 preview, and we'll see you guys next time.